Hello, my name is Bernardo Scaramboni. I am from Brazil, and I am also the past president of KMTA, immediate past president from KMTA. I teach at Eastern Kentucky University, and I would like to introduce our next presenter. It's almost like she does not need any introduction. This is Dr. Janet Bass Smith. She has been teaching piano and performing all over Europe and United States for the past 68 years. Right now, she teaches in a private studio in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and she has served in every position in KMTA. In addition, she was a founder of Orchestra Kentucky. In her presentation today, we are going to hear about Kentucky's Beethoven. Did you know Kentucky had our own Beethoven? I didn't, but we'll find out why. His name is Anthony Philip Heinrich, and his major work will be performed and discussed by Dr. Janet Bass Smith. The Dawning of Music in Kentucky. I am very curious and excited to know about that, and I hope you too.
This is the year of Beethoven. Ludwig van Beethoven was born 250 years ago, so everyone is celebrating his birth by performing his works and talking about him. I decided it might be more fun to talk about America's Beethoven or Kentucky's Beethoven. His name is Anton Philip Heinrich. He was born in 1786 in Bohemia, which was then a part of the Austrian Empire. He was the heir to a large fortune and manufacturing business. He left his financial affairs to others and traveled all around Europe, and in 1810 came to America. He was an amateur violinist, and he conducted an orchestra in Philadelphia simply for the pleasure of doing it. Then he returned to Europe and traveled to several countries. He married in 1811 and returned to Boston. He soon learned that his fortune was lost due to the Napoleonic Wars and then turned to music, conducting and performing in Philadelphia for his income. In 1813, he returned to Bohemia with his wife, where his only child, a daughter, was born. He and his wife then returned to Philadelphia while their daughter remained in Bohemia. His wife died soon after they returned to Philadelphia. In 1816, he walked from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh. He walked a distance of 300 miles to take a position as a director of music at a theater. The theater went bankrupt, but he continued to teach music in Pittsburgh. In 1817, after losing a promised conductor's position in Philadelphia, he walked from Pittsburgh to Cincinnati and then went by riverboat from Cincinnati to Lexington, Kentucky. That's a total of 370 miles. He may have been invited to go to Lexington by the Francis Blissett family. These were actors whom he had met in Philadelphia. Now that he was in Lexington, they apparently helped him find a position with the theater musicians there. On November 12, 1817, that group presented a concert which included Beethoven's First Symphony, listed on the program as Sinfonia Con Minuetto. A biography of Heinrich by William Upton in 1939 stated that this was the first Beethoven performance in the United States. In 1979, this was disproved by programs that were found in Nazareth, Pennsylvania, and that program was dated June 13th, 1813, and in Boston, dated October 10th, 1817. However, this performance in Lexington was the first performance in what was then called the West and the South. Musicians for that concert were members of the Blissett family and other local amateur musicians, probably many of them from the Transylvania University. The Beethoven score was probably provided by Heinrich, the other scores by John Wetzel, who owned a music store in Lexington. Heinrich then went to Frankfurt and Louisville and appeared in concerts in both cities. In Louisville, he met the distinguished family of Judge Speed, whose brother was a United States congressman. He lived with the Speed family for a time in Farmington, and it was here that a lasting friendship with John Audubon developed. John Audubon was the man that cataloged all of the birds. By the spring of 1818, Heinrich had moved to Bardstown and had begun devoting all of his time to music. He was impressed with the natural beauty of America and the music of the Native Americans and the history of the United States. He wished to establish a reputation as an American musician. While living with the Speeds in Jefferson County in 1819, he wrote and published The Dawning of Music in Kentucky, a 64-page collection of songs and compositions for the piano, voice, and violin. Later, he added a 39-page supplement for voice and piano solo, which he titled The Western Minstrel. In Boston, John R. Parker, publisher of the first American musical periodical, gave Heinrich's work an enthusiastic review, and this was in 1820, proclaimed Heinrich the Beethoven of America. Heinrich preferred to call himself the Log House composer from Kentucky. In 1826, he again returned to Europe and traveled to various cities, organizing and performing with chamber groups there. He returned to Boston again in 1831, performing and teaching until 1833, when he went back to London and then to Bohemia to find his daughter. When he arrived in Bohemia, she would now be 20 years old. When he arrived, he discovered that she had gone to America to find him. They were eventually reunited in New York in 1837 and settled there. In 1837, he made one final trip to Europe where for the first time he heard his music performed well by professional musicians. He died in New York in 1861. As I was researching this, I was amazed by the number of times that he traveled from the United States to Europe, and was curious about how long that trip would have taken by boat or ship. Well, that would have depended on the weather, the ship he was traveling on, and other variables, but probably between 20 and 30 days. Heinrich's music is romantic in style, is filled with trills, runs, arpeggios, and chromatic scales with hand crossings that are sometimes very difficult to accomplish. He showed a total disregard for traditional values like balance and coherence, and used unconventional techniques just to explore the sheer sound of the piano. He had no formal instruction in notation of music, which is very obvious when you try to play it, and his manuscript is really difficult to read. His notation of his ornaments is often unclear. His music shows his interest in quantity and spectacle, and his choice of subjects, his quotation of popular tunes, instruments, and idioms show his desire to align himself with the popular culture rather than the elite culture of which Beethoven was a part. The melodies are interesting, and the music, although sometimes difficult to read, is enjoyable to play. I have selected to perform the last composition in the Dawning of Music in Kentucky, called the Minstrels March, or the Road to Kentucky. It tells of his journey from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh to Cincinnati, and then to Lexington, on foot and by boat. Throughout the score, he has written indications of that journey using the following titles: Road, Post Horn, Market Street Hill, Toll Gate, Schuylkill Bridge, Turnpike, Lancaster, Fort Pitt, Embarkation, Salute, Passage on the Ohio, the rapids, standing in for port, casting anchors, side steps, landing, and cheers, sign of the harp. All of these titles are in only 4 pages of music. So it's interesting that he felt the need to tell everyone about his journey. Now, I am going to perform the Minstrels March, or the Road to Kentucky.